Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is your host, Molly Mandelberg, and I'm very excited for this episode today because we're talking about inspiration, we're talking about taking action, we're also talking about getting out of our own way so that we can accelerate, expand, self-actualize, and become our best selves. And I've got a master of that trade here with us today. So we're going to pause for just a second, and I will tell you more about her in just a sec. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. Awesome. So Laurie Seymour is an innovation alchemist. How awesome does that sound? She's a two-time #1 best-selling author, founder and host of the Wisdom Talk Radio podcast, executive coach, international speaker and trainer, and founder and CEO of the Baca Institute. Over 20 years ago, Laurie was honored to receive the stewardship of a special esoteric technology that accelerates the process of innovation and creation in individuals and groups. Doesn't that sound awesome already? Her work is particularly valuable for conscious entrepreneurs, thought leaders, product designers, company founders, because the work accelerates the time from ideation to implementation and revenue, while also opening the creator to new levels of confidence, peace, and satisfaction. Welcome to the show, Laurie. I love your bio, man. There's so much juicy stuff in there.
Thank you, Molly. Yeah, as I'm listening to you actually even provide that bio, I'm going, wow, I want to work with her.
Yes, that should be how it feels to have your bio read. I love that. So tell us a little bit about your journey to stepping into this work. I mean, it's over 20 years ago, receiving the stewardship of that esoteric technology. Of course, we want to hear about that, but also just what was your journey to finding this work and finding your passion?
Wow. Since I've been at this a long time, I mean, well over 20 years. I started out as a psychotherapist because I wanted so much to know more about myself and more about how life worked and how I could support people, including myself, in connecting with what our potential was. I mean, that's what have always been passionate about, is what's possible. And, and that took me into a longer journey, first as a psychotherapist, as I said, and then starting to explore a lot of different modalities and teachings and esoteric technologies and really what was out there. And that took me into, for a while, I was a trainer with the Institute for Music and Consciousness, and doing work with music to tap into those other dimensions. And then I met a woman in 1987 who changed my life. And it was in that time and in the succeeding years that a group of us, about 50 of us really, would meet regularly with her and receive these downloads, receive these energetic initiations. And what we were doing was really exploring and researching as to how our own lives changed as we were given these gifts. And that work eventually morphed into, or it evolved into something called Turea Touch and Turea Meditation. And there were two ways of working with this energy that had come forward and that had, come into a system really. And I was initiated as the Turea Grand Master and have been doing this work ever since. Now, I also was doing work at some point in there as a solutions engineer. So I started, I was exercising that other part of myself that I had never done before. I mean, that I'd never done in that way. I've always been that kind of practical, left brain, linear thinker. And now I was being expanded into a whole other way of operating, of acknowledging, of connecting with myself. And really, I'll say the most basic thing, but also the most powerful, which is feeling how, feeling self-love, feeling like I could really connect with that part of myself that was my own inner guidance system. And so that's brought me to this place today of one really, one of my big whys is I want that for everybody, to feel that kind of love, to feel that kind of inner connection. And that's that way of connecting with yourself so that you have a way to get the next step, to make great decisions, to know what's next. And so that took all, that's a really long way of saying that took me into what I've been working on the last while, the last couple of years, is this inspiration into action, which is we have these great ideas, we have these visions of what we want to do. But how do we stay connected from that moment of inspiration, which we think of as connecting with that greater field of intelligence?
Mm-hmm.
But then how do we bring it into being? How do we take it from that idea all the way into being and not lose that energy of inspiration, that energy that provided that in the first place? But then that same energy, that same inspiration can be tapped into for all of the steps to create it.
I love that. So you help people take their brilliant idea and to even probably to tap into that place where the idea can come in the first place.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
allow it to be born, which is so valuable and so important, to find a way to do that, because there are more than ever right now on this earth ways to stop ourselves, ways to distract ourselves, ways to ignore that field of intelligence exists, that higher self, that other dimension, that place where insight and idea comes from. There's more opportunities than ever to ignore that and to discount it or to get distracted from it. So to train people to get back to there, in and of itself is a powerful practice, but to then take that and bring it into how do we actualize this?
How do we make it real? How do we earn money from it?
Yeah.
It's because it's not about separating spirit from the rest of life.
Yeah. It's about integrating the two.
And I like to think of it, and I talk about it, I teach about this, I see it as what quantum physics has been teaching us and showing us, which is that we are the same here, right here in the physical, as the rest of the energy field out there, that there is no real separation. And so when we understand that, when we really grasp that and are open to that, then we get to tap in and we discover great ideas. We start to discern, because discernment is so important, which idea is for us and which idea may be for someone else. I suspect you're a person that's, when you're with someone, you come up with ideas for them.
That's very much who I am. Yeah.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. I just had that feeling. Yeah.
That's the only reason I'm in business, I think.
Okay. But if you thought that all those ideas that you had were for you,
yeah, you
would probably get stopped in your tracks, because I can't do all those things. What am I going to do? And then you realize, oh, this, well, you know already, that's for this person. It's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I happen to be somebody who really loves taking action and who is like a high performer when it comes to productivity. So I get to be that driving force of like, hey, this is a great idea. I'll help you go and make it too, which a lot of people really need. It's like the hand holding and the guidance, or even just the emotional backup to say, hey, we're not giving up on this idea. This is still valid. This is still real. I'm curious to just take a step back for a moment. What are some of the ways that people can get there, to that connection, to that place, to that insight, to that inspiration? What are some ways that people can sort of dive into channeling that stuff?
It's a great question. And it's a fundamental question. And a fundamental answer to that, probably that I mean, I could go into all kinds of details.
Yeah, of course.
But the most fundamental, juicy thing is learning how to get quiet. And we can say meditation, and I am a meditation teacher. One of the, as I said, one of the forms of this Turiya meditation, is meditation. But it's meditation from that standpoint of being open and available to receive. So it's not passive. I'll hear people talk about, oh, I got blissed out. Well, blissed out is great. And how do you stay connected with that deeper place of within yourself, so that you not only feel that expanded place and tap into that, and also then learn how to or start to dialogue with that place, to ask the questions, to have that inner inquiry. And that for me is what inner research is about, and being curious. Being curious about, so, okay, I have this idea, or I got this picture, I had this new thought, and then start to dialogue about it. Maybe it's just, it's writing that down and having a kind of a question and answer period with yourself.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the questions people would ask?
Well, you have to be able to not go into your head. So you've got to get yourself trained to not flip into that linear way of thinking, but to stay, I think of it as staying in my heart center, and not in any other way, except that that's the part of us that does connect with that greater field.
Right. So it's like not making it right or wrong, or not justifying it, or not talking yourself into it or out of it, but just being with the idea that's there.
Yes. And being curious.
What does this want?
Yeah. So
why is this?
What does this want to be?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll ask the question literally of, what questions do I need to ask? But to just give you some ideas of things that I do ask, or do encourage other people to ask when they're looking at an idea, might be, what's possible with this? Is this an idea that is for me? Is this an idea that I'm to take action on? And what actions am I needing to take about this? Who else might I involve in this? So you can start to really flesh out. The whole idea is getting into it, because as you started out in the very beginning saying, we've got so many ways of stopping ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's to set that aside and know you're just going in with that attitude of curiosity and not of judgment.
Yeah. Whew, I love it. I feel so tapped in just as we're talking about it too. Yeah. Hopefully everybody who's listening is getting that vibe, because the words that we're saying are one thing, but the energy that's coming through the words is a totally another thing. It's like that frequency of that field is present with us right now, which I'm really aware of. And
that's what I work with.
Yeah.
It does feel good, because it's where flow happens.
Yeah.
And we talk about flow, we read about flow, but the feeling of it in our bodies, like I can see it in your face. I wish that your audience could see your face.
Yeah, we might have this on YouTube so you guys can see our cute faces. Yeah. So what's coming up in my awareness right now is there are lots of people who have good ideas, and whether they meditated to get them, or they just woke up knowing them, or whatever the case may be, the taking action on that idea comes up with a whole nother set of limitations, is the word that I want to use, of I can't, I shouldn't, how would I,
dare I, do I deserve it? Yeah, we could go.
Do I even have time, or will that cost me money, or am I smart enough? Am I good enough? Do I know enough? Like all those things. So I know
one that comes up for me that's really personal.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that I'm sharing it, but it's sort of like, it's something like, is it too late for me?
I'm sure that's real for a lot of people. Yeah.
Like, am I too old? I mean, that's the vulnerable side of it for me is, I've been doing this work for a long time. And then when I've just gotten this whole big new idea for this new program that I'll be starting this year, it's those things are what come up. And
it's funny because I feel like there's such a fine line between I'm not old enough and I'm too old. I feel like there's barely any time where anyone's not thinking one of those two when they start to go towards that growing edge of beautiful. Like, am I seen as someone who has enough clout for that. Maybe it's mostly women
Mhm.
who think this. I don't know how many men really doubt that they're the right age to do something. But
Mhm.
yeah. And then am I too old to be the one bringing this forward, or am I too young to be the one bringing this forward? What if there's no age on the divine wisdom that's coming through you? You know?
Well, you know what? I think that is absolutely true. I've seen it to be true. I've seen it in my clients who are who knows what age, but wow, when you feel something that you must feel this, that is so powerful, that's coming through them. All we can do, you and I, is to support that happening in the
Yeah,
best way that we know how.
totally. Yeah. So then what are some of the ways that we, or that you and the Baca Institute help people to start taking action and to start accelerating that into creation mode?
The the initiation process is something I guess I should touch on here,
Okay, cool.
because initiation is that way of I think of it as receiving a kind of an esoteric technology into yourself, like an app into yourself.
Mm,
That's an unusual way, I think, of putting it, because initiations have been part of humanity, for thousands of years. Initiations are really about a quantum leap. And if we go back to physics for a moment, that in the physics world, in the physical world, in the energetic world, we're not just an isolated little particle. That energy is in waves. And so, and it also, energy moves. It doesn't have to go in A to B to C to D to E. We might start out at A and suddenly find ourselves at Q. And how did we get here? Well, we don't have to know how we got there. We have to know that we've made a quantum leap.
mm-hmm. Cue
And
for
so
quantum
that's,
leap.
yeah. And that, so I guess I'm a facilitator of quantum leaps. It's more how I'm seeing what happens with people.
Yeah.
They might be doing a meditation session with me. I do twice weekly online sessions. They might be part of that group. And in these short little times, I've seen people coming up with um, brand colors, new ideas for programs, people that they need to connect with in order to take their next step, logos. I mean, it really runs the gamut, and it's not just that, oh, I had this, beautifully relaxing, deep inner connection, which is wonderful. I'm not in any way denigrating that, because that deep relaxation allows you to take the next step. So, that's one of the ways I work one-to-one with people. And people can just go to my website and, read a lot about, I've got lots and lots of articles about this kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and about getting curious and connecting, going beyond judgment, going beyond our self-doubt.
Yeah.
Because all those things that stop us, we need to, we don't, I no longer think I need to do therapy with people around them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people can move through things sometimes very, very quickly, much more quickly than we might otherwise have realized.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody finds the tools that they require to get to the next
Mm-hmm.
level that they're going to. But what I love about the magical esoteric spaces that you and I can dive into is sometimes the tools work faster, and those are
Yeah,
the tools calling to you. And that
exactly.
doesn't mean that therapy isn't valid, and that it doesn't work for the people who need it.
Right, right.
And sometimes there are quantum leap opportunities that you can take with the right
Mhm.
facilitation or the right insight or inspiration.
Yeah.
And it's fun. Yeah. I feel like I did that this weekend. I was at Access Consciousness class where
Mhm.
I had some quantum leaping happening, and who am I
Yeah.
now and what else is possible. But I think one of the fun things is we can have all these, they call it like bright, shiny object syndrome for those of us who
Mhm.
are entrepreneurs, of like, oh, this insight came over here. Or this, leader told me I should have a course like this, and I need to try this
Mhm.
tool. And we're like inundated with all these ideas of things we should try, or we should implement, or we should
Mhm.
create. And it becomes this laundry list of actions that we have to take in order to be productive. And this is sort of saying like, sure, you've gained all that insight. You have all the information over here of things you could, or you should, or you might someday create for your business. And rather than go through it like a laundry list, what if you got quiet and settled down for a minute and tap back into what's actually trying to come through you rather than what you could force yourself into creating? And how can we stay present with that energy of what wants to be born, what wants to be made, what wants to be actualized for long enough that the steps sort of were compelled forward to take action?
Yeah. And they start presenting themselves. That's you've captured that so beautifully, Molly. And they do present themselves. We are both guided, but it's more than intuition.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's refined gut instinct, and it's that inner wisdom, which is even more reliable when you really develop it than intuition. Yeah. Intuition is like step one. And then when you have that, your own inner compass system activated, you go inside and you ask. You look at your to-do list and then you say, what do I need to start with? Yeah. I mean, it gets very, very practical.
What's alive for me right now? Yeah.
Yeah. And I see that what happens over and over and over again is that, I mean, both for me and for clients, is that people say, well, I don't know why, but I have this sensing that I'm to do number 6 on my list, if it's a numbered list. And then they do that. It's like really willing to not just receive that information, but to act on it, to take action. And then they do that, and it's like, oh my God, well, 1 to 5 just disappear because it's no longer even relevant, and you've been moved into your next step and moved into the next level of what you're needing to do.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun to be led instead of forced or coerced or manipulated into, sounds way more light and way more effortless to be like pulled along instead of,
I think that's the way that we're supposed to do it.
Yeah. When what if it was easier? What if we could do that all the time? What if life were full of that?
Yeah. And it is. And yes.
Yeah. And what would it take to tap into it more? It might take a little help and insight from somebody like Laurie Seymour to get there, which sounds really fun. So people I'm sure are coming to you from a lot of different places and a lot of different walks of life, but probably not everybody is really open to the frequency of what this work is like. So how does someone self-identify and know that they're ready to come and do this kind of work with you?
Boy, that is a really good question. If you're someone that is open to yourself, is open already to there being more, a bigger picture, more for you, a greater way to tap into wisdom than what we read in a book or what we can Google. I work really with conscious entrepreneurs and visionaries, and some company leaders or founders. But they're people that are interested and curious and know that there is that, what I said is that there's more for them. People that are set in their ways don't find their way to me, or if they do, they leave pretty quickly.
Yeah, there's got to be some willingness to dance and be flexible.
Yes. Totally. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I think of it as dancing with the universe.
Yeah. And it's fun to dance with the universe. We like that.
Yes.
It's energizing. I feel so good right now. I'm like trying to direct this conversation, but the energy of it is it's just a yummy feeling. And I'm not on anything. I'm totally sober. I'm just high on life. And that's what this feels like. So yeah, we're reaching the end of our time together. I'm curious, for those of you, whether or not they come to work with you, Laurie, is there anything you just want to make sure that the people listening to this episode hear or know or get reminded of by you?
A couple of quick things occurred to me. I realized I didn't say anything about the breath, and that how the breath, I see the breath as intelligence. as an actual intelligence. And as we breathe in, the breath knows exactly what to do in our physical bodies. If we had to direct it, we would need, beyond a PhD in molecular biology to be able to do that. But it has intelligence. It knows where to go. It knows what to do. And that breath is what connects us with our own inner guidance system. It connects us with the field, what I think of as the field of potentiality. And so allowing yourself to receive your breath is very simple sounding, but if you can just give yourself a few minutes, maybe a couple of times a day to do that, you'll see some profound things. And so that's one thing I would really love for people to experiment with. Um, and I have on my website, I didn't mention this, a free creative innovator quiz. And so people could come and do that and, get an idea of what style of creator are you? Because knowing your own style helps you from getting in your own way and to, what's your superpower as a creator?
Mm-hmm. That sounds super fun. And I'm a big fan of quizzes, so I'm definitely going to go check out that quiz. And will you just let us know what are the best places to find you and stay connected with you? How can people, get in touch with you online?
My website is the Baca, BACA, and that's B as in boy, institute.com. I am on Facebook as the Baca Journey, LinkedIn, Instagram. But my website is a great place to go. You can connect with me. You can, if you feel so moved, like, I'm curious, I want to know more, come and sign up for a virtual tea with me. It's free and it's a way to say, what's my right next step and get some ideas about that.
I love that. Sounds super supportive. So we will put that link for you all in the show notes, thebacainstitute.com. And definitely go and find Laurie on LinkedIn or on Instagram and check her out and see what magic she is up to. Hopefully you guys got a hit of the energy that's present for us on this call while listening today, and allow that to guide the rest of your day. Hopefully see what magic is in store for you. And of course, if you want to logistically do those things for the show, like subscribe or press that like button, or maybe you have a friend you want to share this episode with, please feel free to send it along, direct message it to them. But whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action because you are here for a reason. Thanks for coming. Bye.